so long have had... I go to a place and I play Tom Waits or Nick Cave, and people go, "What the fuck is this? This is dog shit. Turn this off." And I'm like, am I not allowed to do the same thing when I have to fucking hear Taylor Swift? You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Like, I have to deal with this every day because I like music that's actually good.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys are listening to trash and you've never heard anything good, so you don't know what it sounds like, and you hear fucking Hell Broke Loose by Tom Waits, and you're like, what the fuck? I hate this. This makes me angry. And it's like, yeah, but you made me listen to 21 Pilots, so you can go fuck off.
Oh, fuck 21 Pilots. I like ABBA, Pantera, and fucking Dr. Dre. End of list.
I love ABBA. ABBA's great.
ABBA fucking rules.
ABBA slaps, dude. More like Slappa.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I genuinely love ABBA. I think ABBA's
Me and Chris
fantastic.
were listening to ABBA the other night.
We were.
Yeah, same.
One of the best songs that ABBA's done, I feel, is Gimme Gimme Gimme.
Oh, yeah. We heard that.
Yeah.
Right after I said the best ABBA songs are SOS and the first 30 seconds of Take a Chance on Me, and then he was like, no. And then he put on Gimme Gimme Gimme, and I was like, this song's great. It's good.
I like SOS, too. I really like Fernando.
Fernando's great.
About the Mexican Revolution.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is weird that
Now
they're
we got to add all
so
this into the
disconnected.
podcast now that you connected it, Jerry. All this is staying in.
No, you're going to have to cut most of this.
Welcome to the ABBA cast.
Liz walked down to the aisle to ABBA. To a symphonic version of Take a Chance on Me.
Ah, nice.
We walked away from, like, our walk away was Nick Cave, Get Ready for Love.
Nice.
Yeah. I specifically requested that. I want to hear, Get Ready for Love. You know, you've heard it. It's a great song.
Nice.
I was there.
Badass.
And it rocks. Tyler's always getting my shit for playing, like, sad bastard music, but I'm like, there's Nick Cave that rocks.
There's a lot. There's full
Oh, yeah.
albums.
I'm not playing it because I'm drunk and sad.
Yeah. I know it's there, it's just you don't ever play it because you're like fucking going back to Derry.
That is a deep cut Chris and Tyler friendship reference. Hey everybody, we are the History Boys. Thank you for listening. I am Christopher Wheaton, History Boy.
And he is once again virtually sitting next to History Boy and introspective man Tyler Armentrout.
Really going back to Derry over there at your place.
I am Zach Meck. I am also a history boy. Yeah, that's it for now. I can't think of anything.
He's extraspective.
Extra
There you
spectacle.
go.
I'm extra spec.
Thank you.
I spec way too much. I respec way too much.
And I am Jerry Nash, History Boy. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Jerry, I like your shirt.
I know.
Where'd you get that? From me?
I wonder who got that for me.
He's wearing a Destat shirt. It's a band from the Netherlands. I met them in Budapest. They're great. His shirt says Witch Doctor. What are we talking about today, Jerry?
Today we are talking about Pedro Albizu Campos.
Oh, sick dick.
Hero of Puerto Rico. There is a good reason why there's a lot of people in America, mainland America, that would not know his name. There's a good reason for that.
Well, it doesn't help that Enrique Iglesias, or Ricky Martin and Jennifer Lopez overshadowed him.
Yeah.
That's incredibly fucked up, what you just said.
It's a
But I'm
statement on our
spitting
culture,
facts,
not
unfortunately.
on the man himself.
I'm going to assume
saying
it's on
that's
point.
fucked up. Yeah.
I mean, Zach is the Secretary of Latin Affairs for the History Boys. And
Just like
so
Tyler's
anything
the
he says, I smile and nod and I say, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Just like
That's right to
Tyler's
me.
the Secretary of Aryan Affairs.
Zach, were you familiar with Pedro Albizu Campos before this episode?
No, and I mean, I lived in Puerto Rico from 1988 to 2003?
Oh, how about that?
3, I believe. Yeah.
That's incredibly fucked up that you never learned this.
Yeah, man. No. What I learned in school was the stupid song La Niña, La Pinta, La Santa Maria.
Yeah.
Christopher Colon. Like literally, that's like all the knowledge that I have of Puerto Rico.
Well, the sheer fact that you did anything in Spanish in a Puerto Rican school shows how far we've come.
I mean, that was on a military base, though.
I also
true.
like that was essentially about Christopher Columbus, and I assume dropped the verse about him slaughtering natives.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is what we're talking about today, folks. Nothing really... I would love to tell you good things happen in this story, but this is a hard story to tell. It really is. This is... A lot of bad shit happens in this story, is what
Put
I'm
on
going
your
to tell
bummer
you.
caps,
And that's
folks.
why we don't know about it, is because it really makes the United States boys at the top look real bad.
Yeah, that's weird how those
Yeah.
stories tend to not be that well known.
Well, that's why we're here, guys. We're here to bum people out, make them introspective, really,
Take them back to Derry.
take them back to Derry.
If you guys want, whenever we get way too sad here, I can spit out a fun, stupid thing that would happen to me when I was living in Puerto Rico.
That sounds great. We should
I'm
probably do
super on
that
board
because
with that.
there's going to be a lot of real fucked up
Start
shit
writing them
that
down, Zach.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
This is our main source. We have a few, but our main source is a book, which I think should be required reading in all public schools in the country. It's a book called The War Against All Puerto Ricans. It's written by Nelson A. Dennis. I've also heard it pronounced Denis, but in the interviews that I've seen him in, he doesn't correct anybody. So I'm going to go with Dennis because I don't really know for sure.
He could
But-
be really polite.
Yeah, but this book is absolutely fantastic. This guy went through FBI files that were declassified. He went through, this is all from government files that he is sourcing his book from, and he came under a lot of fire when he first published this book because there was a lot of people that were like, that's not true, that can't be true. And it's like, well, if you look at his sources, it's hard to argue with.
Are we talking about Saucermen, Jerry? Because you're talking about going through FBI files. I'm only thinking about X-Files.
Jesus. Anyway, yes, I highly recommend that you read The War Against All Puerto Ricans. It is a fantastic book.
No Saucermen, I take it.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, but we were talking about Pedro Albizu Campos. A hero to some and a terrorist to others. The leader of the Nationalist Party of Puerto Rico was one of the strongest voices for Puerto Rican independence from the United States in the early 20th century. He was, by all accounts, a brilliant man who spoke 6 languages fluently. He gave rousing speeches urging the Puerto Rican people to take back their cultural roots, including their own flag and national anthem, which had been taken from them. We'll get into that later. From their colonizers that had deemed these cultural roots, their own flag and national anthem and their own language, they deemed them illegal.
Oof.
Seriously?
Seriously.
It's rude.
That's fucked up, man.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, especially because whenever I think culture, I always think of food.
You got
And my God, Puerto Rican cuisine,
It's
bellissimo. It's so good.
I like
there's
how
more
you
too.
punctuated that with Italian.
I know, right?
There's more to their culture other than food, though.
Sure,
rum.
but yes, the Bacardi. I actually never mind. I'm gonna save that story for later.
Okay, good. So, a little bit of backstory here. Since Christopher Columbus landed there in 1493, Puerto Rico has pretty much always been under the thumb of another colonial country. The native Taino people were used as slaves in the mines, and their population was decimated due to disease that they had no natural immunities from. You can look at numbers. People disagree on numbers, of course, till this day, but it's staggering. Yeah.
I want to meet the dickhead scholar who's like, wait, pump the brakes. Not that many of them died from diseases that were brought in by
Right,
colonizers.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, he makes it better.
He wasn't
Yeah.
even there.
Well, and honestly, it's probably the same dude that's like against the book, War Against All Puerto Ricans, being like, listen, it wasn't
I love that.
crazy. Yeah.
People
It's
who
like,
go
come on, dude.
just above and beyond to like disprove things to justify their own racism.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
It's
Yeah.
like saying technically more white people are shot by the police.
Yes, right?
Right.
There were way more white people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's like, do the fucking math, assholes.
Yeah.
But math is hard.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
It's even harder when you're stupid.
So the Taino called their island Borikin. That's
Borican.
Borikin. You
Yeah.
got you. Susie's been helping me with some of these.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Borican.
Susie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Borican. But the Spanish, at least at first, they called where San Juan is now, they called it Puerto Rico, which just means rich coast. And it used to just be where San Juan is now, but
Right.
it later became the whole island.
Well, and that explains why they kept that name later on, is because the coasts of that country were making the white colonizers really, really rich, and we'll get into that
yes.
a little bit later.
Yeah, and it was a major stop-off point for the slave trade as well.
Yep.
Major stop point between Spain, like, you know, they'd take slaves from Africa to Spain, and then from Spain, and then they would go out all over the place, but they would go to Puerto Rico and then to America. Mm-hmm. And
Right.
it was this flow. It was this, they called it, you know, the circle. You know
The
what I mean?
Coriolis effect.
No, that's different.
No, I'm kidding.
Something happens in our atmosphere. But yeah, it was the circular trade that was going on, built with slave labor. Yeah, it was named San Juan after John the Baptist. You know,
Naturally.
Yeah, right, Catholic sort of thing.
Gotta love those Catholics.
Yeah. So Ponce de Leon was the first colonial governor of Puerto Rico, and he's kind of a story for another day. You know, one day we'll do Ponce de Leon. We're not going to touch him today. But despite some independence movements for over 400 years, that's 1493 to 1898, Puerto Rico remained as a colony under the Spanish crown.
Yep, that's about right. I do remember learning about that in school, come
Yes.
to think of it.
In a story for a different day, again, the Spanish-American War broke out, and when the United States won, the Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico that had previously belonged to the Spanish were ceded to the United States in the 1898 Treaty of Paris. There was a bunch of treaties of Paris, but this is the one that the United States signed.
Well, because it's the one that gave them all those islands.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
They're like, you guys come with us now, and they're like, does that mean that we get to be states? No. Does it mean we get a vote? No.
No.
Does it mean that we get taxed? Oh, you bet.
Yeah. Does it mean we get independence? It's like, a couple of these guys.
Yeah.
Like the Philippines.
You might get concentration camps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you play your cards right.
That's another story for a different day. In the Philippines, yes, there were American concentration camps there. Story for a different day. Total different thing. But they planned on having the Philippines one day becoming independent, which is not so with Guam and Puerto Rico. And they kind of like tried to keep it from them, even though it's like kind of hard to hide.
Right.
But the United States, at the time, had the same social Darwinist, white supremacist feeling of manifest destiny over the Caribbean islands, and any islands in the Pacific, especially considering that they would need ports on either side of the Panama Canal that was in the process of being built. And of course, we acquired it in 1904 and helped build it and controlled it for a long time until we gave it back to the Panamanian people in the Carter administration. So the prevailing thought of manifest destiny at the time was that the Anglo-Saxon sensibility of society was superior to all others. So they had a moral authority to do this for the betterment of native peoples. That's what they thought, that we are bringing them our superior society, and we will
white man's
bestow
burden.
upon them. Exactly,
Yeah.
white man's
Yeah.
burden. That's exactly what
White
it
man's
was.
burden, check.
Right. Yeah. Nothing different from manifest destiny. It's the same thing. In the early years, Puerto Rico was governed by military governors appointed by the American president. Even going so far as to change the spelling to Porto Rico, like phonetically, Porto Rico. Because they couldn't pronounce Puerto, I can't really do it, but Puerto Rico.
There
go.
you know, fellas. I don't know. When I say Puerto Rico, I get a little bit too passion and a little bit too caliente. I don't know. I think Puerto Rico is going to be a little bit easier on the old palate and on the old heartburn.
You don't want to see me with the passion.
Yeah, you don't want to see me with the passion.
I'll be flipping tables in no time.
Yeah. I hope you get the passion during this episode, because if this story does not piss you off, there is something severely wrong with you.
Oh, I'm already pissed off.
So, briefly in 1914, there had been an independence movement, but Congress rejected it as unconstitutional based off the Foraker Act, which was the very act that stated that Puerto Rico belonged to the U.S. So when they were like, we want to be independent, they're like, that's unconstitutional because you belong to us. And they were like,
well, duh.
yeah, right? Come on now.
Read the papers, guys.
Yeah.
It says right here, you guys are subservient to us and have no rights. Come on.
I brought this up a lot on the show, but this is another example of people in an authoritarian position being like, sorry, those were the rules. Like, we just enforce them.
Yeah,
I don't make
the
exactly.
rules. I don't make the rules. I just write them down and enforce them.
Yeah.
We'd love to get you in on it, but you're not invited. And that's also in the rules that I just wrote.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's unconstitutional to give you guys any rights whatsoever. Yeah. Our hands are tied.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump around a little bit here, but just stick with me. Basically, this is just kind of the world that Pedro Albizu Campos is growing up in, and what he kind of has to deal with inside of his own mind, growing up around all this stuff. So in 1917, 3 months before the United States entered World War I, President Woodrow Wilson, who was a card-carrying proud member of the KKK, by the way, signed the Jones-Shafroth Act, which is commonly known as the Jones Act, which gave Puerto Ricans American citizenship. And, right before the war, 20,000 Puerto Ricans were drafted to serve in the war, to serve in segregated regiments.
What a fucking asshole.
Hi, I'm President Woodrow Wilson. I got good news and bad news. What would you like first?
Yeah.
Right.
He comes up to him and is like, listen, guys.
You're citizens.
Do you want to be Americans? Right? Yeah. Okay, you are. You're drafted.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Well, a lot of people signed up, too. In fact, over 236,000 Puerto Ricans served in the war, including Pedro Albizu Campos. We'll kind of get to that later. But
in World War I?
In World War I.
What would have been the population at the time?
That's a good question.
That's going to be a pretty big chunk of Puerto Rico.
That's a big chunk.
Yeah.
The fact that 20,000 were drafted should tell you enough right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
20,000 drafted. Did not sign up. Drafted.
Conscripted, if you will.
Conscripted is the same term. It means the same thing.
War slaves.
Yeah. Militant
Exactly.
slavery.
Yes, exactly.
But now citizens.
But citizens. But you don't get a vote. You don't get a vote for president. So...
How fucked is that?
Yeah.
Look, it was a regular old Starship Troopers affair.
Right.
What's the difference between a civilian and a citizen?
Right.
In Puerto Rico, there is no difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for them. Puerto Rico was given a legislature that was voted on by Puerto Ricans. It was kind of like a state legislature. It was like governing bodies that governed the inner workings of Puerto Rico. But they still answered to the United States and the American president, which they could not vote, and still to this day cannot vote on the American president. They do have one U.S. Senate seat, but that person cannot vote in the Senate. Instead, all they can do is basically, every time something bad happens, they plead with the United States to do something. So every time they need relief effort after like a hurricane or something.
So every year is what you're saying.
Pretty much.
Because hurricane season comes every fucking year.
Exactly. They have to basically they basically have to grovel to the United States
So let me ask you
and
something. Jerry.
ask them for money.
Excuse me. Do they pay taxes to the United States?
Yes.
Huh.
More so than most people.
What I have this vague memory of something about that being unconstitutional. You know?
Yeah.
Weird. Maybe I'm wrong.
I know. If this doesn't make you mad, there's
I
something
like how
wrong with you.
They use the Constitution as an example to fuck them.
Yeah.
But then when
all
the Constitution
time. We're gonna
should
see it
support
again.
them.
We're gonna see it again here.
I mean, if you were paying taxes to the United States of America, the Constitution should be supporting you.
Yeah.
And I'm talking
The
about
Cons-
does not.
taxation.
It does not.
No taxation without representation is what I'm talking about.
The
They are
U.S.
literally
Constitution is an optical illusion that changes depending on where you're standing. It can either be a shield, a sword, or a ball gag. And
Exactly. Here,
Yeah.
it's a ball gag, and we'll see later. Not in this episode, but the next episode. It quite literally is a ball gag. Quite
Yeah.
literally, they even called it a gag.
Wow.
So we'll see that in the next episode. From here.
Well, it's like First Amendment really only applies if you're a white Christian.
Oh, yeah, certainly. So, one of the first things the United States did was to declare the Puerto Rican currency, the Puerto Rican peso, invalid. And then they declared that all Puerto Rican cash issued before the American occupation to be turned in for destruction in exchange for the American dollar.
So was it just $1 American for all their cash?
Oh, it was not. Of
It's almost like you knew the
course.
answer to that.
Yeah. Of course, the Puerto Rican currency was only valued at 40 cents on the dollar. Now,
so I have
Beautiful.
$100.
Yeah.
Now
You have
I have
$40.
$40.
yeah,
Yes.
that's fucked up, isn't it?
I have $1 million. Now I have $400,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jerry, America's pissing me off so much. Please tell me it doesn't get worse than this. This
It gets
is
much
it, right?
worse. No.
Jesus,
It gets
I know
much
it is.
worse.
I know.
It gets much
Fuck.
worse. People lost nearly everything. Nearly everything they had, which was really nothing. Let's be honest. But it caused what it did is it caused these massive foreclosures all over the island, and people couldn't pay, so they had to foreclose. And these private companies in the United States were able to buy up all this arable land for cheap on 40 cents on the dollar. With a 40% discount. Think about that. A
So-
40% discount for
They
land.
used it in their favor in this case.
Yeah.
Fucking
yeah.
dickheads.
Actually, wouldn't that be a 60%
That'd be
discount?
60%. Yeah.
It would be, yes, sorry. It would be a 60% discount. Exactly.
Remember, math is hard.
Matt,
This
is I'm not one of the smart people you talked about earlier. I can't do basic math. I can do this. I can read books and study all day long,
can't
but I
even
can't
read
do
books,
basic
so-
math.
At least
Look, I hate to be that guy, but that's just investments, man.
I know it is. But that's capitalism run amok is what
Yes,
we're talking
and
about here.
ugh.
It gets worse. The primary banks that foreclosed and then financed this land grab were the American Colonial Bank, the House of Morgan, which still exists, J.P. Morgan Chase,
Yes.
and the Riggs National Bank in Washington, D.C. Now, this is one I want you to remember, the Riggs National Bank. This is a place where all of these ex-presidents, a bunch of them used to bank. It's not that far from the White House. And, I mean, it's a who's who. Lincoln, Grant, all of these people banked at Riggs National Bank.
They're the bank that rigs the economic system to benefit,
Rich
wealthy white landowners in America.
Exactly.
That's the joke
What's
I
in
was
the
gonna
name? Yeah.
make. What I was gonna say was, Jerry, were they called that because they rigged the American economic system?
They did, but that name, Riggs, I want you to remember that name. It's going to come
Happy
up.
It's gonna be hard to forget. That's actually where the word rig comes from.
Oh, yeah.
I made that
That's
up.
true.
But might as well. Who gives a shit? Don't listen to what I say on this podcast, guys.
We won't.
So then the agricultural land that was used to produce food was then switched to a one cash crop economy. And what was that cash crop economy?
Marijuana.
You wish. No, sugarcane. Remember when we talked about the Great Boston Molasses Flood?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
They got all their sugarcane, at least most of it, from Puerto Rico. From here.
Sounds about right.
Because of this.
Thank God sugar's never done anything bad. Sweet and delicious, and
you
know.
can make bullets out of it.
Yeah. Well, and thank God that the people in charge of all of this sugar and what we do with the sugar are responsible people. They're not just looking out to make a dime off of everybody that is
Nobody's ever done
buying
that
or
with
selling or
capitalism.
working in any of it. Because they clearly didn't care about Boston, and they clearly don't care about Puerto Rico.
I'm just craving sugarcane now. I remember eating that shit as a kid.
I bet, yeah.
But
It's
Jerry,
delicious.
how is the stock market doing?
Oh, booming, brother. It was booming.
That's all that matters,
For
right?
the
That
top
means the economy's doing
1%,
well.
it was great. It was great.
Oh, the rich are doing great, and the poor are not. Therefore, the economy's doing really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like today.
Just like today.
I love it when the markets are up.
Oh,
The markets are up
Oh.
for the
I
rich.
love when
for the
rich
richest
people are
of us.
making more money, and that's the justification you can use for saying the economy's doing well.
Oh yeah. No, our president's done well on making the economy good for rich people and no one else. Anyway.
That's what I'm alluding to, for sure.
Yeah. This made Puerto Rico dependent on the whims of the United States economy, despite their territorial status that denied their right to vote in mainland American affairs. Now, again and again, throughout Puerto Rican history, tax breaks and incentives were given to American companies who opened up shop in Puerto Rico. It was cheap labor and low overhead. That's what it
Yep.
was. Didn't have to pay people the minimum wage because the minimum wage doesn't exist there. It's not a state.
Exactly.
Jesus fucking... Every sentence you say makes me want to kick a table over.
Yeah, dude, it gets worse. It gets worse, man. We haven't even touched it yet.
Hey man, that's just capitalism and that's just NAFTA. That's
Yeah, man.
NAFTA, baby.
It's not even NAFTA. This has nothing to do with NAFTA.
It's pre-NAFTA NAFTA.
Not even NAFTA. This is an American territory. This is America we're talking about. This history is American history.
Fair enough.
So not surprisingly, because of this way of doing business, famine, unemployment, and poverty spiked. Because even if you did have a job in one of these industrial hubs of Puerto Rico, because, you know, they encourage you to move to the city and get a job in one of the factories or something, you couldn't afford to feed your family with the slave wages you earned, on top of the fact that all the goods shipped into Puerto Rico were inherently more expensive because nothing was produced locally. So everything was 10 to 15% more expensive than in mainland America. This is still true today.
Jesus. What if you want sugar?
Nobody wants fucking sugar, dude. They want food.
Also, you got to get the sugar imported from America because that's just the way things work.
Well, technically that has to go to America, so you got to buy it back.
Well,
Yeah.
you know
That's
what?
probably true,
not,
isn't it?
It's not far
Probably.
from the truth. To this day, because of the Jones Act, basically what happens is that the Jones Act basically says, if you read it just on the surface, it doesn't seem very nefarious, but until you consider the consequences of what it means, that's when you see the holes and flaws in the system that
Sure.
people have absolutely taken advantage of. And what it is that when World War I hit, we were unprepared with our supply lines going across the ocean. So we wanted a law in place that basically guaranteed that we would always have a merchant marine that would carry supplies in American ships crewed by American crews to take them from, you know, point A to point B for American trade. Because Puerto Rico's not a state, it's a
Territory.
it's a commonwealth now.
It's a commonwealth,
but
yeah.
The same rules still apply. We'll get to when they actually changed the word to commonwealth. Not that it makes a huge difference, but anyway, for example, if a ship from Argentina with oil were to show up in Puerto Rico, now all of Puerto Rico's energy is based off of oil. All of it is. In order to buy that, it's subject to tariffs and taxes and all of these things that any foreign ship is subject to. So you can either buy it at that high premium, or it has to go to Jacksonville, Florida first, unloaded off of the Argentinian ship onto an American ship and shipped back to Puerto Rico at a markup because it's more expensive to do so. So I would ask, this is a modern thing, but I would ask, why don't those jobs that are in these longshoreman jobs that are in Jacksonville, Florida, why don't those jobs exist in Puerto Rico to create some sort of industry and make it able for foreign ships to land and make cars less expensive? Because anything is this way. This is why it's so expensive in Puerto Rico.
If you're not a state, you're a reservation. Pretty much.
Pretty much.
What is it about Puerto Rico that makes, other than the fact that we keep calling it, we could have made it a state, we made Hawaii a state, is it just that we could continuously manipulate the economic system from Puerto Rico to make more money in America, and that's why they aren't doing this?
That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
It's so fucked up.
I would argue that as well. It's pretty fucked. Unfortunately, because there are people who are complete fucking morons and always look at numbers and stuff like that. People blame the amount of money spent on unemployment and welfare on Puerto Ricans for the most part because they are American citizens, and it's like how the fuck else are you supposed to survive if you're not
when you have all these things that it rigs the system against them?
Exactly.
Well, first off, everything is more expensive in Puerto Rico.
Well,
anyone
that's
ever visited there will tell you that. Second off, the poverty rate in Puerto Rico is higher than Alabama today, which is the poorest state in the union.
Yeah.
So we're talking about more poverty. One of the most poverty-stricken areas in the world is Puerto Rico.
What drives me
and
crazy
everything
is
is
there's
more expensive.
There would be so much outrage if these things were happening within the United States.
Yeah.
And for some reason it's different here.
Yeah.
And I can't see any other fucking reason that your average American is suddenly okay with that outside of nationalism and racism.
Yeah.
Well, they also, when I say nationalism, that's because they're like, Puerto Rico's not America, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
They're American citizens. They are.
Yep.
Well, that's my point. It's like, I imagine all these, Trump voters who were like, yeah, give them fucking paper towels. Or like, well, they're not Americans. It's like, no, they are Americans.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a rigged system to keep, I think, to keep the cash cow that is Puerto Rico producing money for Wall Street and keep that going and nothing else. It's really in service to nothing or anyone else. It's just that. That's what it's about.
You're right.
And the legal system is in place to keep that going.
All right, so we're gonna do a quick palate cleanser with a Baby Zach story time on my time living on Puerto Rico because obviously we're getting way too heated up and we've just begun.
We've just begun.
All right, yeah, we've just begun. So you guys know that Bacardi's from Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Can you guys believe that? My dad thought that it would be appropriate to take myself and my little sister to the Bacardi factory over there. He thought it was totally appropriate to do that and then go onto a catamaran where we're literally the only kids there and everything, like everyone else was like, spring breakers. And that was the first time in my life that I saw a real life Harry Bush from some white college girl.
You're welcome, Zach's dad. From Zach's dad.
I was about 9.
I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was one of those people partying on that catamaran, I'd be pissed off that somebody brought their kids.
Oh yeah,
like
let me tell you how fucking awkward it was because like
I don't blame them. I'm like, just fuck it, just party like they're not here, like because that's not my problem. You brought your kids here.
Man, like it was very, very, very awkward. Especially like seeing like through this lady's bathing suit that like literal full bush hair is just like coming out, so it looked like, you know, like a clown wig or something at like either side of her crotch.
So this, I mean, I know that you're a bit younger than Chris and I, but I can probably, by the pubic formations, I can probably say that this is probably what the mid '90s, mid to late '90s. Yes.
So if I was about 9, then it would have been 99. 2000.
Yeah. This was pre the smooth genital revolution of the early 2000s.
Fair enough.
Hair's coming back, though.
Hair's coming back.
Yeah.
Hair's coming back. It all comes back in cycles, just like music.
Yeah. Ladies, do what you want. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. It's not just because, you know, you're married and you know, you've been married for almost 2 years and you got a kid on the way and you just really just need to, you know, let it go. You know,
I don't have a kid on the way. The rest of that is
I think he's talking about himself.
Oh no, I'm talking about in general.
I thought he was talking about me.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good palate
That was
cleanser.
a good palate
That was
cleanser.
fun. I liked it.
So now
Cute
now
little
continuing.
childhood story there for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now continuing. In 1900, President William McKinley appointed the first civilian governor of Puerto Rico, a man named Charles Herbert Allen. Clearly
Obviously
not
Puerto Rican.
Yeah, clearly not a Puerto Rican.
Alan.
Now, Allen not only ignored or denied any request for municipal, agricultural, or small business loans, but he also redirected the insular budget to no-bid contracts for U.S. businessmen, railroad subsidies for U.S.-owned sugar plantations, and high salaries for U.S. bureaucrats in the island's government.
Sounds about white. I mean, right?
Yeah, exactly. So nearly all of the government jobs went to U.S. expats. And although he only served for a little over a year, he did this soil testing campaign and land speculation campaign that it basically what it did was it's like, oh, this tests positive for me being able to buy up all this land at a cheap price and create a sugar empire out of it.
Based off what science? My own personal science.
Well, yeah, his soil study of Puerto Rico. It was an island-wide study. And so he only served a little bit of time, and he, of course, returned to the United States, and it just so happened that he served as vice president of both the Morgan Trust Company and the Guarantee Trust Company of New York City. Huh. And with these connections, Charles Herbert Allen built the largest sugar syndicate in the world.
Jerry. You gotta get the guys who know big business, who know the banks, who know economics into government positions, because they're the only people who can really guide the economy the way that we need them to.
Yeah. The syndicate was known as the American Sugar Refining Company. And of course, he was president of the company, and he served on its board of directors for years and years and years.
As you do.
I read a statistic that 40% of all land on Puerto Rico was bought by foreign to Puerto Rico syndicates, sugar syndicates, and 80% of that land was owned by the American Sugar Refining Company.
They're shipping diabetes. It's shipping diabetes.
At this point, we're talking about monopolies. This is a monopoly.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, "Is Daniel Plainview?" But now I'm like, it's like if Daniel Plainview was also
Willy
like
Wonka?
a drug baron. You know?
Charles Herbert Allen is very much a Daniel Plainview, for sure. So while Allen built the largest sugar syndicate in the world, his political appointees in Puerto Rico provided him with land grants, tax subsidies, water rights, railroad easements, foreclosure sales, and, of course, favorable tariffs.
Oh.
What luck.
But there's no money to go to the people of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
That would be...
No.
Wait, you're trying to bankrupt the company?
Yeah. Well, you're gonna are you going to invest in infrastructure of this place? No.
Infrastructure.
Just make sure that sugar gets on my boat, and that's it.
Trick is
I
to,
thought you were thinking of like things that you put sugar on. Make sure that sugar gets on my toast.
I don't. Yeah.
the trick is to promise fixing infrastructure and then don't at all.
Yeah. Now, this sugar syndicate exists to this day. It's now called the Domino Sugar Company.
Wow.
Still there. Still a thing.
I've seen Domino sugar. It's still very much a product that you can purchase.
Yes, it is.
And maybe you shouldn't. Switch to good old fashioned corn syrup.
Well,
High fructose.
Well, it's still probably made
Brought to you
with,
by Monsanto.
Yeah.
Thank you to our sponsor, Monsanto.
or still made with Domino sugar.
Probably.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Actually, there's a few story for a different day, but there's a few like products that Trader Joe's won't carry because of their connection to banana republics and things like. So the educational system was also changed. English was now the official language of Puerto Rico, even though almost no one there spoke it.
Well,
Yep.
Teachers now had to teach their classes in English from English textbooks. The history books that were given were American history books about things that had happened in places far away by people that they had never heard about before. And these heroes from these history books that Puerto Ricans were told to worship, like, this is our General Grant, he's a hero to you. And they're like, okay.
Why?
Yeah,
Okay.
like,
Okay.
he really
no idea
saved Puerto
that.
Rico.
Yeah.
So did Christopher Columbus. Remember that one.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I remember the song.
Yeah.
Do you?
Do you want to sing it, Zach?
Again? No.
Well,
So yeah, the stupid song that they taught us in school, because brainwashing happens at a young age.
yes.
I've heard that, yeah.
You
Within
gotta,
public school.
It's like plants. Like you gotta nurture it and brainwash it. When it's a seed.
Yeah.
The brainwashing song that I learned on Roosevelt Roads was, which by the way was the name of the naval base that I went to school at.
There's a
would
reason
go,
for that, too.
Right? Oh.
Anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, the song basically just went La Niña, La Pinta, La Santa Maria, Christopher Colon. Basically fucking deifying Christopher Columbus,
Yes.
even though he was a big old piece of shit.
Yeah.
But what about the verses about McDonald's and Disney?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Oh, yeah. Those were the lost
And
texts.
Walmarts and parking lots
Yeah.
and a bunch of big box stores that exist there now.
Oh, that actually reminds me. Sorry, and then we'll get back on. Here's another little palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Just a little short guy. I remember, because I used to live in a town called Fajardo. I remember before we left Fajardo that Wendy's, fucking Wendy's opened up. And let me tell you guys something. Everyone got into their fucking church best and would go to fucking Wendy's because they thought that it was some fancy ass shit.
Well, there's nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it was gnarly. Like, it was so crazy when, like, there's a McDonald's, like, literally right next door and no one gave a shit about it.
Right.
But that fucking Wendy's, they got them square patties.
Well,
okay.
in Idaho, people do the same for Applebee's.
What's the name of that chicken place that hates gay people? You know what I'm talking about?
The what?
What's that?
The chicken place that hates gay people. What's the name of them?
Oh, Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. It's like when that Chick-fil-A opened in Bellevue and people were coming out in droves to support, hatred of homosexuals
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
shitty chicken sandwiches.
Popeye's chicken sandwich is 100 times better than the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. I tested it for science. It's not, I did it as part
when
of
you give them money, they're not going to give that money to anti-gay organizations.
Organizations, yes.
Yeah.
It's true. But I want to ask you guys, what do you think would happen if the shoe was on the other foot? In America, or anywhere in America, somebody demanded that you speak, God forbid, Spanish, but a language that you do not speak, because it has now been deemed that you must speak it.
Well,
Could
in my
you imagine?
experience, the Bible's in English, so that's why we all have to speak it. Like,
That's great. That's
You're
great.
not wrong.
if God didn't want us to speak English, he wouldn't have written it in the Bible in English. So
Jesus spoke
end of
English,
discussion.
Jerry.
I've read the Bible. It's in English. I've read every single page, the first page of Genesis. I almost got
Don't
to the
forget,
first page
too,
of Genesis.
Don't forget, since we're talking about our favorite nonfiction pieces, that every sci-fi fortune-telling stuff, English is referred to as basic.
Yeah.
Basic as
So-
fuck.
Basic.
Well, from the late 1910s through the 1920s, corrupt and clueless governors appointed by the president had full control over Puerto Rico at the expense of Puerto Rican cultural identity and the lives of Puerto Ricans themselves in exchange for the profits of Wall Street.
This is still Wilson?
It was all of them. Every
Yeah.
single one from 1898 until,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't remember when
Boy,
Wilson
now.
stopped being president.
Well, the hardest part for them was waiting until hurricane season to cackle maniacally so they could have lightning behind them.
They'd be like, yeah. Also, they would be like, hey, our towns are fucked up, or shattered. Can we have
Yeah.
some more money? And they'd be like, I thought hurricane season was over.
yeah.
No.
Well, remember guys, when we talked about like fire departments like holding your house hostage and making you sell it on pennies on the dollar
Yeah, in
Yeah.
ancient
while it was
Rome.
burning?
Right.
That is how Puerto Rico works. Whenever a hurricane sweeps through, it's basically held hostage by the American dollar until they're desperate enough to pay whatever money they can to get themselves out of the hole they are in. And we'll talk more about this in the next episode.
Do
as
you
well.
ever
Yeah,
consider that maybe the Puerto Ricans should have just got a job?
Yeah. Well, there's actually an operation in the next one called Operation Bootstrap.
Oh,
That totally
gross.
worked. I know, dude. I know.
Nice.
It's a little bit of foreshadowing.
Jesus.
It gets worse, guys. It gets worse.
I can't wait.
I know. Okay, so pressing on here. With no money, no crops, no land, Puerto Ricans sought work in the cities, at factories. When the Puerto Rican legislature enacts, they tried to enact a minimum wage law, like the one in America, but the United States Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional.
It's unconstitutional.
I mean, obviously.
We
There's
don't make
no
the
white
rules.
people
We
living
don't
there.
make the rules.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
make the rules. That's every time you go, like, sorry, we have to
Not
continue
a
fucking
state.
you. It's unconstitutional if we don't.
Can't do it. Yeah, can't do it. Unconstitutional. It was also decreed that no other flag was to be flown over Puerto Rico other than the American flag. So there was that.
Also
too.
sounds about right.
Ugh.
That'll get worse, by the way. That'll get worse later.
It's so
But-
hard to fuck you when I'm not holding you down.
Yeah, right? So, finally, getting to our subject for today. Pedro Albizu Campos was born on September 12th, 1891, in Ponce, Puerto Rico, to Juliana, right? Or
Juliana.
Juliana?
Juliana
or,
Campos.
Yeah, Juliana Campos or Juana Campos, right?
Yep.
She was a domestic worker of African descent, and his father was Alejandro Albizu Romero. He was called the Biscayan amongst the place by people, but he was a Basque merchant. He was
Was
white.
he a bounding Basque?
No. He was an asshole.
Didn't mean
I
anything
think you
now.
mean a Basque hole.
There you go.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And
Now
I'm not
his-
even becoming a dad.
Now, his mother died when he was just 4 years old, and his father actually disowned him because of how dark his skin was.
That's racist.
It is racist.
Just gonna. There's no joke to make there. That's a racist
Yeah.
thing to do.
It is.
And
was able- he
unfortunately,
was
that's
okay
also
with-
very common in Puerto Rico.
It is very common.
It was
Yes.
okay for him to sleep with somebody with dark ass skin, though.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But you got to punish the child.
Right.
He was
Right.
like, when that baby comes out, if that baby isn't whiter than both of us, I'm getting rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, the odds are stacked against you, bro.
Well,
Every day I
yeah,
want you
no-
to think about albinoism while you're pregnant.
Yeah. Well,
Because otherwise...
no accountability towards the man in this, of course.
It's fucking disgusting.
So Albizu was raised by his Aunt Rose. Very poor. There was a story of a barefoot Albizu seeing a procession of the American military government, sort of like coming down the street, and they're having like a rally or something, and he sort of misunderstood what was going on, and he shouted out at the wrong moment, "Viva la Puerto Rico!" And the crowd like turned around, and he kept shouting it, he kept saying it, and they're like, "Dude, knock it off, man, they're gonna get pissed off."
You're gonna get us in trouble.
Yeah, he was chased away by the like military guys.
That's
Like,
got to
get
be an
outta here.
isolated incident. Nobody who's ever had a rally's been bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, although his schooling was in a language he, was unfamiliar with, Albizu was an excellent student. He graduated at the top of his class at Ponce High School, a school that taught the white elite of the island. So he was lucky enough to be one of the few that actually attended the school with the white elite kids. And using the many scholarships that he won, because again, he was the smartest kid in his class, he was accepted to the University of Vermont to study engineering and chemistry.
Oh, he's going to go to Vermont and learn
Nice.
all about being very liberal. Very, very liberal.
In 1913, he transferred to Harvard University to further his studies. And although Albizu had experienced racism while studying in America, his hopes were high when he was made an American citizen in 1917. He was kind of on board with being a part of America.
Wait. Harvard
first-
educated, perfect command of the English language, American citizen. Why
Yep.
didn't he just become a writer on The Simpsons?
Well,
That's a great
it
point.
was 1917.
Simpsons has been around a while. I think
Yeah.
it might have been around then.
Yeah, it's been around so long it bleeds backwards into time.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, he was optimistic about Puerto Rico's future, so much so that he actually enlisted. He volunteered in the United States infantry, and he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 375th Segregated Infantry Regiment, because of course he was black.
You gotta keep them segregated.
Yeah, even though officers were
Nice.
considered to be
Offspring.
white, he was clearly black. So
You're the best of the best of the best of the second best.
right, that's the way they thought about it. Yeah,
Pretty much, yeah.
You're the best non-white.
yeah. That's basically what they had to say to him. Anyone in Puerto Rico that was recognizably black served in these segregated regiments, such as this one. I mean, he served in the war, and after experiencing this racism in the military and the meat grinder of World War I, because do you think that these segregated regiments got to sit in the back the whole time? No, they were put on
Like-
the front line
You know
as
those-
cannon fodder.
You know those
course.
front trenches? Get in
Yeah.
there.
That's him. He saw
But there
the
are
meat
no
grinder.
trenches in front. So those are just two piles of bodies with a valley in between.
Yeah.
Get into that trench.
Yeah.
Get in the
he
trench
witnessed.
between those other black bodies. Didn't feel good saying that, but it was a criticism of the way people thought at the time.
Yeah, I understand. Once he got out of it, experiencing this sort of racism that put him at the front, and just the carnage of World War I, he was a completely changed man when he came out. He was totally disillusioned with the United States and their control over Puerto Rico. But he was honorably discharged in 1919 at the rank of first lieutenant.
Not
that it
bad.
meant. not that
I
it
mean,
meant
there's
whatsoever.
something.
It's something, but
It's like getting your ass kicked and curbed, and then someone hands you a cheeseburger at the very end.
yeah, or gives you a medal.
mean-
gives you a medal.
I'd rather have a cheeseburger.
Well, my question is, where's that burger from?
You
Probably
know,
Wendy's.
if I'm hungry enough, I don't give a shit. As long as it's not dicks.
Don't speak ill of dicks, Chris.
Yeah, with their fucking
Yeah,
sweet pickles, they're disgusting.
It's a Seattle institution, Chris. Stop it.
I love Seattle, except for one thing.
The heroin, obviously.
Bezos.
Dude.
returning to his studies at Harvard, he became involved in the independence movements throughout the world. He advocated for the Indian independence, and he straight up joined the cause of the Irish independence movement.
Huh.
This goes with our 1916 Easter Rising episode.
Crossover event.
Yeah,
because
remember when I was telling you that like all of these like Irish leaders, they came over to America at some point and rallied for like support amongst Americans for the Irish independence cause? Remember when I told you that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a Puerto Rican guy in the very back of the room like, I'm with you.
Yeah, exactly. He actually worked as a consultant on the Constitution of the Irish Free State after the rebellion with Eamon de Valera. He was known as Dev. He's in that movie Michael Collins. He's the other guy. He worked with him as a consultant to write their constitution.
It's like the real world cinematic universe.
Yeah, it is. It is. He
It's
knew
like
him.
when
Yeah.
Peter Parker was in Iron Man 2, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dev, he was born in America, so when he was captured by the British in 1916 during the Easter Rebellion, he wasn't executed. De Valera actually went to serve him 2 full terms as Ireland's president.
No shit.
Yeah, so, like, he knew, like, the right guy that like, survived the whole thing.
Fucking A.
In 1921, Albizu Campos became the first Puerto Rican to graduate from Harvard, studying literature, philosophy, chemical engineering, and military science, while at the same time becoming fluent in English, Spanish, French, German, Portuguese, Italian, Latin, and ancient Greek.
Cool.
Okay, we get it. You're smart. Like,
He
do
was
way to
brilliant.
fucking make me feel like an
to
ass.
graduate from Harvard at this time as a person of color, you have to be the smartest person in Harvard.
In the school, and he was. He left Harvard without his law diploma, however, because of one professor who delayed the timing of his exit exams long enough to ensure that Albizu wouldn't be able to attend the graduation ceremony.
I'm sure racism.
That one
had-
professor was a piece of shit.
He was racist.
racism
That's
had
what it was
nothing to do
about.
with that.
Yeah. Well,
Except
the thing
everything.
was, the thing was, is if he had been able to take this test in question on time, he would have had the highest grade point average out of anyone in his class, and thus that would have made him the valedictorian for that year.
Fuck
And
me.
He would have had to give a speech at the graduation. Of course, the valedictorian speech, right?
Right.
No,
He did it all in ancient Greek.
Yeah.
He would have.
to this professor, in his mind, that would have been it would have been
unacceptable.
shameful and embarrassing to have a Puerto Rican give a speech at the graduation of Harvard.
Jesus.
So that's
and I'm
why.
proud
I'm gonna
to
be-
be an American.
I bet
That's
that
why.
gets worse. Where
Yeah.
I bet that wasn't just that professor. They were like, dude, like a bunch of people were like, dude,
Yeah.
you gotta delay this thing so this guy can't take the test. And he's like, dude, I know.
That could
know.
be. That could be. That could be.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, bunch of people are like, ugh.
Chris,
That wouldn't
we don't
surprise
have
me.
time for conspiracy theories. There must have been there would have been like 5 people, maybe 10 people in that conspiracy. And who knows how they'd be able to pull it off, orchestrating such a big thing between 5, maybe 10 people.
Yeah. Are you telling me that there were 5, maybe 10 people who worked at Harvard who were racist at this time?
Probably less.
I mean,
that made all this happen.
feel
There's
free to
probably 2 or
speculate all
3.
you want, man.
But it didn't matter, though. He still got his law diploma. He passed the bar, and he got the diploma by mail. So it didn't really matter.
Sounds like you raised the bar.
Oh, I bet that professor
Yeah.
was pissed. Do we know that professor's name?
I couldn't find it, and I looked pretty hard for it, and I could not find it.
Because I'm going to harass his kids, his descendants on Facebook. For sure.
His name was Whitey McWhiteson.
His name was Whitey McBush.
Yeah.
The
McBush.
Bushes were Yale. They were Yale
They're
boys.
yes. They're Yale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was
Skull and
Harvard?
Bones, guys. Come on.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So returning to Puerto Rico, Albizu Campos married a Peruvian biochemist that he had met at Harvard named Dr. Laura Meneses. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Zach?
Laura. Menenses.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. They would go on to have 4 children. Pedro, Laura, Rosa Emilia, and Hector. Right, that's how it's that's pronounced, right?
Yeah, Hector. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Hector. Hardly knew her.
Susie was the one that was like, it was actually, yeah. Anyway.
I didn't think of it first. Tyler did, but I knew where he was going.
So in 1924, Pedro Albizu Campos joined the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party and was elected vice president. In 1927, Albizu Campos traveled to Santo Domingo, Haiti, Cuba, Mexico, Panama, Peru, Venezuela, and all these other Latin American countries, basically to seek support for Puerto Rican independence and their movement, kind of seeing what everyone was doing. So if you've been sort of paying attention, who would he have talked to in Mexico, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe,
Pancho Villa?
Good job.
Yeah! I did it.
He talked to, the most liberal of them. You know, the most independent-minded of them. And actually, Pancho Villa is going to pop up again in the next episode.
Pancho
fuck
Villa's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
my dude.
I miss
He's
him.
gonna pop up.
You can't keep a good revolutionary down.
No, especially him.
I mean, at the end they did, but
That's fucked up. On May 11th, 1930, Albizu Campos was elected president of the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party. And he also formed the first Women's Nationalist Committee as well,
cool.
which I thought was interesting. So in 1931, Albizu defended a nationalist named Luis Velázquez, who, during a political dispute, had slapped the Chief Justice of the Puerto Rico Supreme Court and actually won the case. And the judge's name was Emilio del Toro.
Oh, nice.
I love his work.
I really like Hellboy.
Well, Benicio del Toro?
That was a joke. I know it's not the same person.
He's
getting to
related
it.
to him.
No.
Nice.
Holy shit, really?
Benicio del Toro is related to him and this very, well-to-do, famous family, the Del Toros. Yeah, he's
Guillermo part
directly...
of that?
No. But
Fuck him, then.
Benicio del Toro is. He's directly related to Emilio del Toro.
They don't all know each other, you racist.
Yeah, you're right. I assumed they didn't.
Sure, it was just like, they're all related. I mean,
That's
like,
not
no,
what
no.
I said.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah,
I'm just saying it's one of those crazy things.
I really like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
We all do.
I really hope that Benicio would refer to him as Emilio.
Now,
That was an old SNL joke.
that was.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Now, the story of the Puerto Rican independence movement is also the story of a barbershop.
Oh.
Salon.
Hello.
Yeah.
I was going to say just like Luke Cage.
Salon Boricua was a barbershop run by a man named Jose Maldonado Roman.
It's a good name.
And he had fought in the Cuban independence previously, and he was considered an outlaw by the Spanish, and he had served time in prison several times. And Maldonado, he was thought of as sort of a Puerto Rican Robin Hood. He straight up robbed people and redistributed wealth. Like, this guy was a badass. Like,
Cool.
yeah, he was kind of a Ned Kelly in that way. Like,
He was a Puerto Rican Bernie Sanders.
I would say Robin Hood, Ned Kelly. I would give Maldonado that kind of a thing. He straight up did this kind of stuff. He was a great person, and yeah, he ran this barbershop, which is incredible, and it was extremely involved in the Puerto Rican independence movement. And Salon Boricua was a hub for like-minded, independent individuals. So yeah, they would come there and they would meet and they would get their hair cut and whatnot.
They made the salon an actual salon.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll talk about it more too, because the Salon Boricua is a big part of Puerto Rican history, believe it or not. On January 17th, 1932, however, Jose Maldonado Roman died of throat cancer.
Oh.
Why? Because he had been to the doctor's office.
Oh, the doctor got him.
Don't go to the doctor.
Yeah, all those cigars that the doctor was just pushing down his throat.
It's worse than that, buddy. It's worse than that. Dr. Cornelius Packard Rhodes, or Dusty Rhodes, was an American. He was an American military doctor sent to Puerto Rico by the Rockefeller Foundation to combat the population's anemia problem.
Oh fuck! Wait a minute. I vaguely remember this story.
I hope you would know this story. This is
Jesus.
a disgusting story. This is a disgusting story. Now, anemia, at the time, wasn't linked to an iron and vitamin deficiencies, but from poor diets. It was actually linked to laziness. It was thought that the Puerto Ricans suffering from anemia were just being lazy, and if they worked harder, for lower pay, mind you, they wouldn't have this problem.
Jesus Christ.
Now, Cornelius Rhodes had a severe distaste for Puerto Ricans.
Well, it's probably good they gave him that job then.
Yeah. Now here's a letter that he wrote to one of his friends back in the States, or at least that's what he says. Quote, this is a quote, this is directly from his letter. I can get a damn fine job here, and I'm tempted to take it. It would be ideal, except for the Puerto Ricans.
Ugh.
They are beyond doubt the dirtiest, laziest, most degenerate and thievish race of men ever inhabiting this sphere. It makes you sick to inhabit the same island with them. They're even lower than Italians. What the island needs is not public health work, but a tidal wave or something to totally exterminate the population. Then it might be livable. I have done my best to further the process of extermination by killing off 8 and transplanting cancer into several more. The latter has not resulted in any fatalities so far. The matter of consideration for the patient's welfare plays no role here. In fact, all physicians take delight in the abuse and torture of the unfortunate subjects. End
Oh
quote.
my god.
What the fuck?
That is the grossest thing I've ever heard in my life. I feel gross hearing that.
It's disgusting, and it gets worse.
The guy was a
It gets
serial
worse.
killer.
Yes, he was.
Look,
He was a
also
Nazi doctor. There's
Nazi
nothing
scientist.
different. There's nothing different between him and any Nazi doctor.
He's Mangala, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. Fuck, that's gross.
Well, I mean, this isn't a palate cleanser, but unfortunately, when I was living there,
Zach, I
I've
need
heard.
something. I need it.
All right. I'll give you something after what I'm about to say. But
All right.
unfortunately, when I was living there, people still had that same fucking mentality, and that's like
insane.
Rehearing this shit, and mind you, this was in the mid to late '90s to early 2000s. When I was there, still boggles my fucking mind.
That's insane. Absolutely
But
insane.
Being
All right.
racist to Sugar Ray? Oh, man.
Jesus Christ, Tyler.
All right, so a little palate
Yeah,
cleanser
tell
for
us
you
a fun
guys.
story,
please,
Zach. I need
please,
it right now.
please. I need
It's
a palate cleanser.
disgusting.
Okay, so check it out. There's this beautiful rainforest over there called El Yunque, and El Yunque is just like fucking gorgeous, beautiful rainforest, like cool fucking frogs and plant and wildlife and shit like that. I remember going there for one of my my school field trips, and at the very end, you know, you go over to like the fucking what do you call it, the like the merch shop or whatever. So we decided to go over there, and I saw these kids, like, you know, they were eating these lollipops and shit like that. I'm like, hey, that looks like a Jolly Rancher lollipop. Fucking badass. I'm gonna have one. I go and I grab one and I start going to town, and because I'm an impatient motherfucker, I like to just chomp down shit.
Is it the one with the
1,
bug in the
2,
middle?
3.
Oh yeah, there was a fucking
Yes.
cockroach in the middle of
Yes.
it, and
Nice.
It's good,
I
right?
cried and cried and cried because I had no idea what the hell was going on.
I'd try that. I'd try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. But I mean, okay, beautiful place.
That's a fun story.
I thought it was pretty fun.
That is pretty good. Now, this letter that he wrote was never sent, though. But it was found by hospital staff because it was left open on his desk while he went to lunch one day. And they found it, and they were like, what the fuck is this?
You insane fucking psychopath serial killer piece of shit.
He was like, that wasn't for Twitter, that was for Parler.
Oh,
It was a joke. It was locker room talk.
That's what he said. So, outraged, the hospital staff made copies and actually sent one to Pedro Albizu Campos. And as outrage grew, Cornelius Rhodes said that he was, quote, just joking, and that he had written the letter while he was drunk one night.
Oh, yeah, all that Bacardi went straight to his dome.
He actually felt everything he fucking said. Then.
Yeah.
Right.
This is no
I
excuse.
get less racist when I'm drunk. And I'm already not racist, so I become anti-racist when I'm drunk.
You should just be drunk all the time then, Tyler.
I should be.
He suddenly didn't feel well, and he fled back to mainland United States.
Of course he did.
Yeah, he was never charged for the 8 admitted murders that he committed. That's ones that he himself admitted to in this letter. And 13 that were confirmed murders, which he was never tried for, and the many more that are unconfirmed, that he must have had something to do with their deaths as well.
What a fucking monster.
He was a monster.
Giving people cancer?
Transplanting cancer in people on purpose. On purpose. Let's not forget this. In fact, though, his crimes were covered up by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Sloan Institute to guard their interests. Now, the Sloan Institute is the Alfred P. Sloan Institute. You may have heard it. Mm-hmm. They're the main financiers for a lot of other podcasts as well, the Sloan Institute.
Ferris Bueller's girlfriend.
Now, Dr. Cornelius Rhodes was even celebrated in the United States as a crusader who was combating cancer and the effects of nerve gases, never mentioning his vile human experiments and inhuman treatments of Puerto Rico.
Jesus, he's Mengele, man.
He's a Mengele. He experimented on human beings.
The problem is, like, Mengele's stuff was fucking... like, if he left that letter out, people were like, good job, Mengele.
Right.
Under his circumstances. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. No,
But he's no better.
Yeah, no,
He would
all of
fucking...
his... All of this shit with, like, cancer that he did, like his cancer research and stuff that he did, they're celebrating they're celebrating basically him giving cancer to people and testing the effects of nerve gases on people. It's
literally weaponizing cancer.
Yeah.
Seriously,
at this
point.
point.
It's just horrible. So Albizu, understandably outraged at the actions of Dr. Cornelius Rhodes, he sent copies of the letter to anyone who would listen. He sent them to the League of Nations, to the Pan American Union, to the Vatican, to the ACLU, to newspapers and embassies. Along with the copies of the letter, he included some other stuff of his own writings. Quote, evidently, submissive people coming under the North American Empire under the shadow of its flag are taken ill and die. The facts confirm, absolutely, a system of extermination. The Rockefeller Foundation has, in fact, been working out a plan to exterminate our people by inoculating patients unfortunate enough to go to them with the virus of incurable diseases such as cancer. End quote.
But enough
Jesus.
about Wendy's.
No, it's not Wendy's. It's this guy.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it light.
I know. I'm sorry.
This is tough to keep light.
An investigation was conducted of more than 250 cases treated during the period of Rhodes's work at the Presbyterian Hospital by the Rockefeller Foundation, which concluded that Rhodes somehow carried out his work appropriately. They were like, oh no, we've conducted an investigation. We found that nothing here is wrong.
So
Sounds a lot like our current administration right now.
Well, that sounds
obviously
like-
there's nothing wrong.
to me,
Nothing has
either.
changed in America.
He was still doing some shady shit, and they swept it under the rug, or he wasn't doing shady shit because they were white people.
Yeah. No,
So
that's probably
either
more accurate.
way,
Yeah.
he still did that shit in Puerto Rico. The guy is a war criminal.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a room full of greasy palms. The greasiest
Yeah.
palms
Yeah.
with the
They
most.
can't even pick anything up. Their palms are greased so much.
They can pick up money. They can pick up money with those greasy
It
By the
ass palms.
boatload.
it sticks to money, but everything else, you have
Yes.
to pay people with that money to pour drinks in their mouth.
Yeah.
Feed them grapes with their
Yeah.
greasy fucking hands.
Peeled grapes.
Yeah.
I'm not eating the peels.
Because it's
grapes.
harder, I guess. Yeah. Now, the American Association for Cancer Research had even established the Cornelius P. Rhodes Memorial Award in 1979 as a prize in
For
the
who can
field.
give the most cancer to people?
Well, in the field of cancer research.
Jesus.
So if you're like a cancer researcher that had done well in your field, you would get, some of them, the Cornelius P. Rhodes Memorial Award.
Well, he did. He was the one who found out that if you deliberately transplant cancer into people, it gives them cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not exactly.
You know,
Research
so
in
don't
my
do
mind.
that. You know,
Yeah.
he
He's like,
figured
don't
that
do
out.
what I do. I
Yeah.
dropped this cancer into their open wounds and then sewed it shut. My bad.
Now, much later, in 2002, it was concluded, although people had died as a direct result from Dr. Cornelius Rhodes' quote-unquote treatments and unethical human experimentation, that no wrongdoing had taken place.
What?
However,
Fuck.
however, they at very least stripped his name from the award, so at least there's that.
No, I remember when this happened. Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you would have lived. Did you live there? At the time?
Yeah, I was living there at the time, and I do remember that this was a big thing, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, everyone on the base, like people that I went to school with, even unfortunately Puerto Ricans whose parents were in the military, and that's why they were on the base and stuff like that. Their mentality was, well, it happened a long time ago, and nothing bad happened.
Not
so
that
why?
long ago.
When they
Not
changed
that
the name of the
long ago.
award, did they change it to the Washington Cancer Award?
I fucking.
Will they
the
figure
ar-
out a new name for it?
The argument that that happened a long time ago is the
Yeah.
dumbest shit I have ever heard. Like it doesn't.
That was
like,
2 generations ago. That was
things
not that long
happen
ago.
are still creating a system that we live in today, and you just go, it happened a while ago. Who cares?
No.
Let's just forget
No.
about it.
There's
No,
a
it's bullshit.
70-year-old Puerto Rican, and that happened to their parents.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's completely
When
fucked
I'm old,
up,
we
man.
should just
Like,
forget about 9/11 because it will be a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah.
I already forgot.
But-
What's 9/11?
But they said to never forget, Zach.
Never forget. You could forget everything else, just don't forget 9/11.
Yeah.
I have 9/11 written on the back of my hand, so I never forget.
But I don't remember what it means. 9/11, like
Yeah.
AM or PM. I don't know.
But you know what, guys? This wasn't the only medical procedure designed to control the Puerto Rican population. There's another one that was actually bigger and probably more far-reaching than what Cornelius Rhodes ever could have imagined. It was sterilization, which was forced sterilization
No.
in most cases. Yes. Some women went to the hospital to have a child and came out never being able to have another.
Oh my
and this
God.
they had no idea. This is something that happened to them. They didn't really know what was happening. Some did go willingly, mind you, in effort to take control of their own destiny. Kind of I mean, birth control was
It's like getting your
outlawed,
tubes tied,
except for
but,
this.
like...
Well, except for this sterilization, all other forms of birth control, of course, were looked down upon. So there were some Puerto Rican women that did go for voluntary sterilization, but those were few and far between. Most of them,
they were the minority. Most people were involuntarily sterilized.
Yes.
Jesus,
yes.
It just keeps getting worse, Jerry.
It gets worse. Now, Puerto Rican women were used for the testing of new birth control methods. IUDs, they were tested on, and birth control pills with a potency 10 times as high as the birth control pills on the market today. Because it was used to
just
again,
max it out and see what happens.
Yeah, sterilize them, and it was a testing ground for prescription drugs in the way of birth control.
Do you think that we'd have birth control pills as we have them today if it wasn't for this?
No. The proving ground of the birth control pill was.
I also think this has a lot to do with the fact that they're trying to sterilize women and not men.
Yes,
you know,
100%.
That's why we don't have a male birth control.
Well,
this is part of that reason.
Well, for the longest time, birth control was never looked on as a male problem, only as a female problem. So that's, of course, why this happened.
Yeah. Thank God things have changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Yeah.
Jesus.
So between 1930 and 1970, approximately 1/3 of Puerto Rico's female population of childbearing age underwent, quote, the operation, unquote, which is the highest forced sterilization program in the world.
Jerry, I did not know about this.
Yeah, not a lot of people do.
This is America.
This is American history. After witnessing what was happening in Puerto Rico, several doctors resigned, calling Puerto Rico the world's largest medical lab, where the entirety of Puerto Rican population was its test subject.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And on that note, we're gonna do a little palate cleanser about baby Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
One of my favorite traumatic experiences living in Puerto Rico was when I first went to San Juan, which is the capital of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And San Juan is really cool, and it's divided into San Juan and Old San Juan. And Old San Juan has like the big forts and
we're gonna talk about those forts, brother.
Really cool, like architecture and shit like that.
Yeah.
Super badass. Really cool, especially when you're a little kid. You have like you get to go run around and pretend that you're fucking one of the Three Musketeers or whatever, right? One of the things, yeah, right. But
anyway.
well, I
be
mean
a
that's
musketeer,
what I did.
Jerry.
Because I saw castle type walls. I'm like, I am a Three Musketeer. Boom, whatever. Like I didn't fucking know about French and blah,
as a
blah.
as a little boy, I also idolized Alexander Dumas and his unabridged works. So.
Yes. Thank you. I'm glad somebody else is on the same page as me.
I was more into Spider-Man.
What was really cool, though, in Old San Juan was that there's this one square where it's pretty famous for, like, feeding birds. Like, just, like, get a bunch of breadcrumbs and, do your thing. And you see, like, large flocks of birds, and it's great. Well... So I'm there with my family and my little sister, and my sister decides to be a big piece of shit and throw all these breadcrumbs at me so that I start getting attacked by flocks of birds. And of course, I don't know what to do because I'm literally carrying a giant bag of like breadcrumbs and shit like that. So they're pecking at me so that I would drop the thing. But I didn't want to drop the bag of breadcrumbs, and yeah, it was avian warfare committed by my little sister.
And you started naming all the birds. based off of what you were into at the time. So you were just like D'Artagnan, D'Artagnan 2, D'Artagnan 3, Porthos 1, Porthos 3.
I'm not
There's
sure
no
about
Porthos
Porthos
2.
two.
There's no Porthos 2.
Are these all characters from Three Musketeers?
Yeah,
Yes!
yeah, man.
Talk about
Yes.
Spider-Man. I don't fucking know.
You fucking
I went-
derelict.
I went through a really, really big Three Musketeers phase, and
You
I
in
actually,
500 years, people are going to view Spider-Man like that.
Yeah, it's true. They're gonna view like Marvel comics in the way they do like the classics.
And there's
No,
gonna
wait,
be,
wait,
there's gonna be
but
that shitty
Spider-Man.
historian who's like,
It's
it
gonna be
wasn't
Harry
really fine
Potter.
art.
Yeah.
It was the pop culture at the time.
Yeah, spoke
Yeah,
for
That's
the
what
man.
does
of the,
get remembered.
Yeah, there you
Exactly.
go.
Like,
Spoke for
So,
the working
y-
man.
Shakespeare is the Taylor Swift of his time.
You're probably not far off, Chris. Honestly,
It's the
he was
meanest
very
thing I've
popular.
ever said to anyone.
Very
He
popular.
was the original Kevin Feige, creating the original cinematic universe.
There you
Because a
go.
lot of those Shakespeare stories,
Yeah.
they
Already
They
crossed
also
over.
existed.
took ideas from other
Yeah.
things, just like Marvel did.
But
Anyway.
yes, I thought you guys would like that little anecdote.
I loved it. Jerry,
was a
tell
good
us more
power.
about the people
That
of
was a
Puerto
good power
Rico
point.
getting fucked over constantly.
So after Jose Maldonado Roman died of throat cancer that was transplanted there by Dr. Cornelius Rhodes, because he did go to that Presbyterian hospital, a barber that worked at his Salon Boricua, he bought the place. He became sole owner of the place. His name was Vidal Santiago Diaz. And this guy is one of our main badasses of the story. We're gonna catch up with him in the next episode, but Vidal Santiago Diaz, a humble barber, is one of the just most insane badasses of the story. You'll see why.
Good with a blade.
No, dude. You'll see. You'll see, man.
a bit of a
this guy's
swish,
a
you know?
fucking badass. A fucking badass. You'll see. So the barbershop had always been a fervent supporter of the independence movement, and now it became more involved. Even Albizu Campos, he got his haircut there, as well as many other prominent independence leaders, as well as the rank-and-file new cadets of the Republic, and the macheteros, the people that cut the sugar cane for a living. All you had to do was, if you went to the Salon Boricua, you presented a machete. That was your proof of being a machetero, the person who cut the sugar cane, and you would get a free haircut.
That's cool
There.
as shit.
It is
Yep.
really fucking
Fucking
cool.
badass.
Yeah.
I cut for free. You cut for free.
I have a machete.
Basically.
Oh,
Basically.
damn.
Basically. May as well have been.
I was just gonna say, I have a machete. It was gifted me to me by a man who sympathized with that my ex-girlfriend ended up with my old machete, and he gave me a machete that he got in Costa Rica that he claimed had pig's blood on it, and I have that to this day.
Oh, that may be true. The United States took no real interest in the nationalists or their cause for independence. Like, they didn't really take it seriously at all. That is, until 1934, when Albizu organized an island-wide agricultural strike of sugarcane workers, the macheteros. Each day, on average, a sugarcane worker would cut and load 50,000 pounds of sugarcane in a day in 50 to 60 hour work weeks, and paid the starvation wage of 12.5 cents per day.
So what you're telling me is that the worker is not controlling the means of production?
No, yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Jesus.
Yeah,
and-
it's called the Amazon method now.
Yeah, not able to afford anything.
The trick
And-
is
Right.
to convince people that people who are on unemployment are actually the bad guys and not the person who's paying your slave wages.
Yes, exactly.
Is it bad that I can't help but think of how callous their hands must be?
Oh god, must have been just
Could you
bricks. Like their hands
Yeah.
must have just been
Could you imagine
hard as
jerking
a
them
rock.
off?
Jesus.
I'm trying to be
I
sympathetic
know,
to their plight,
I
Jerry.
know, I know.
You know
Jerking
that,
off with a hand like the Thing?
Oh God.
That's a
You
Marvel
know it was
reference
tough.
for you
with
guys.
50 or 60 hours
Thanks.
in a work week, yeah, that's a lot of time. So what they wanted, what their demands were, was to double their wage of 12.5 cents. That was their demands. They just wanted double that.
They just wanted a quarter.
That's all they wanted. A quarter a day. A quarter a day.
I mean,
To call someone who cares.
what are they?
Yeah. They refused so hard that when Albizu Campos led this strike demanding this kind of money, during the Great Depression, no less, Albizu Campos was declared a, quote, threat to national security, end quote.
That's when you know you're a cool guy.
Yeah, cool guy alert.
Yeah.
Now-
that's the coolest thing to be declared.
Yeah. Now, considering the United States was making a fuck ton of money off of Puerto Rico at this time, it was its biggest cash cow, and it couldn't have anyone fucking with that. You know what I mean? Like, this is during the Depression. They need that cash.
We found a loophole where they're technically American citizens, but we don't have to give them any rights whatsoever. And
Yeah.
we're making a lot of money off of them.
Yeah, so we can't have anything going on with that.
We can't do that to white people.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, there are slavering workers.
Yeah, exactly. May as well have been slaves. So as a consequence, Albizu Campos, he would get death threats, even a botched assassination attempt. And FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover ordered a 24-hour surveillance of Albizu Campos.
Yeah, and he ordered that in a full ball gown.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Sequin gown. Yeah. Nothing against that. That's fine. He should have owned that a little bit more.
That's my favorite thing about him.
Yeah. Honestly.
It's the only thing I like about him.
Yeah.
Same, honestly.
Same. So in the early 30s, a string of American-appointed governors controlled Puerto Rico, who in turn appointed American or Puerto Ricans loyal to the Americans to top government positions, including Theodore Roosevelt Jr. He served as a governor of Puerto Rico as well. Which I thought was
TOJR?
I'm sure he turned things around.
T.R. Jr.
TR
Who was
Jr.
he was a massive piece of shit, but
Of
yeah.
course he was. So was Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah. Concerted efforts were made to infiltrate universities and any institution that would breed independentistas and convert them to an American-centric liberal cause. And on October 20th, 1935, in a political meeting which the Nationalist Party held via radio, Albizu Campos called the university deans and the Liberal Party, he called them traitors, saying they wanted to convert the University of Puerto Rico into an American propaganda institution, which I happen to agree with, according to what
sounds about
happens
right.
next.
Yeah, fuck those liberals.
On October 24th, 4 days later, 1935, a student assembly held at the university declared Albizu Campos as their leader, their persona non grata, their total leader. And people started getting nervous, so they requested the governor, who was a FDR appointed person, his name was Blanton Winship, who was an absolute villain of this story, to provide armed police officers on university grounds in case the situation turned violent.
I mean, with a name like that, it doesn't surprise
Yeah,
me that
Blanton
he
Winship
fucking sucked the... Yeah.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
villain.
He was a
He's-
military man.
I feel like he sounds like the bad guy from Pocahontas.
Yeah, right.
He went to the rich kid camp from across the lake.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Certainly. Now, the police chief, appointed by Winship, Army Colonel Elisha Francis Riggs, of the Riggs banking family,
Rigging the system.
he was put in charge of the situation.
He's gonna do a good job.
Yeah. Together, Winship and Riggs had militarized the insular police force. This is what they were called. Remember how we talked about like the Securitate, like the local government controlled the police force. You know, a police force.
The federally controlled secret police.
Yeah.
I'm glad we don't have those now.
Yeah, glad that doesn't exist anymore, huh?
Oh, yeah.
They're coming to Seattle. You know it.
They're
already here, brother.
Did they arrest people? They didn't.
Dude,
they didn't
They're
report
downtown right now, as we speak, as we record this
Right
episode.
now?
You're not going to hear about it.
Right now. But this one, basically, I mean, you could take Securitate in Romania and you could rename it Insular Police, and that's Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So when I
Same
say Insular
thing.
Police Force, that's what I mean. I mean a
Gotcha.
police force like this. They were sent out to deal with the rising tide of Puerto Rican nationalism and growing support for independence. Now, 2 police officers spotted a, quote, suspicious-looking vehicle, end
Was it-
quote. That
Was it
never happens.
driven by a black man?
Yeah. Yeah.
I meant that as a joke to make fun of the system, but yeah.
But
turns out
no.
Nothing's
That's real.
changed.
nothing's
They asked-
changed.
Yeah, they asked the driver. His name was Ramon Espegon, and his friend Pedro Zach, you may need to help me with this one.
Pedro Quinones.
Quinones. That's what I figured.
Quinones.
Pedro
Yeah.
Quinones. They asked him for identification, and of course, you know, if you're not being pulled over for anything, you need to know why you're being pulled over for something. You need
Why
to.
the fuck you need to see my ID, motherfucker?
Yeah, you need. There needs to be some sort of crime taking place in order for you to show your ID. So, of course, a struggle ensued, and the police killed both men. Killed them, both men.
I'm glad that that's changed.
Yeah.
In our current society.
The local newspaper El Mundo reported on October 25th that the day before, observers heard an explosion followed by gunfire. A man named Eduardo Rodriguez Vega and Jose Santiago Barea?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Barea.
Barea. Were also killed that day. An eyewitness, Isolino
Here.
Rondon.
Yeah, you got
Yeah,
it.
Isolino Rondon.
Yeah,
Wish
you
we
got
had
it.
a Norwegian for the last episode.
She testified that she saw the police officers shooting at the victims and heard one police officer screaming, quote, not to let them escape alive, end quote.
Jeez.
But her testimony was ignored. And and no charges were ever filed against these police officers that murdered these 4 people for no reason.
This still fucking happens.
Yeah. This has become to be called the Rio Piedras massacre.
Piedras.
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 Rio Piedras is where Susie's mom was born.
Oh, shit.
Susie, she's been to Rio Piedras several times.
Thank God she hasn't been massacred.
Yeah, but it left 4 people dead and no one was.
Oh, it's right outside of San Juan.
Yeah, no one was ever charged.
It's almost like how the people who murdered Breonna Taylor have never been charged.
Yes, exactly.
You know? Weird.
The cops are just doing their job, Chris. Jeez.
Murdering people. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they're there to do. Now, Police Chief E. Francis Riggs was reviled, of course, and blamed for the massacre. Of
I
course.
revile him.
Yeah. And on February 23rd, 1936, this is months afterwards, Puerto Rican nationalists Hiram Rosado, is that Hiram?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely Hiram.
And Elias Bouchon.
Bouchon. What are you
We got
asking
a
him?
French
Right,
guy,
right.
we got a Jewish
Bouchon?
guy in there. They're shaking things up.
So these 2 men, they retaliated, and they shot and killed Colonel Riggs in San Juan. Murdered him over what he was
motherfucker.
responsible for.
Oh no, they killed Riggs?
Yeah, which
Oh, I
is
feel
yeah.
weird.
It was his last day on the force.
He was gonna retire.
Now
A
both men,
millionaire.
now both men, they were executed at the police headquarters without a trial. or anything like that. There was no trial. They were just led to a wall where they were unceremoniously shot. Now, Blanton Winship, he was enraged by this assassination of Colonel Riggs, and he ordered all Puerto Ricans suspected of being a nationalist rounded up and arrested and tried for sedition. Yeah, Antifa.
Yep.
Antifa. Round them up. On April 3rd, 1936, Pedro Albizu Campos was also arrested and tried with sedition and with, quote, trying to overthrow the American government, end quote. He was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison in Atlanta.
And on that note, I'm gonna do one more little Zach story because that's a hard pill to swallow.
I need a Zach story, guy, to end this episode. Give us a Zach story.
You guys all know, like, Puerto Rico is literally made up of 3 islands, right? It's not just one giant island. There's 3 islands, right? So there's Puerto Rico, which is the big island. Then there's Culebra and Vieques.
Yeah.
But did you know off to the side that's still part of Puerto Rico is called La Isla del Mono, which is essentially Monkey Island, and it's not accessible to people.
Monkey Island.
Yeah, and it's not accessible to people unless you are a scientist going to study monkeys, which I always thought was really cool, and I've always wanted to go over there. Never did.
I didn't know there was a real Monkey Island. I played those games since I was a kid.
There is a real Monkey Island, yes. They're not in balls, though, unfortunately. Or, no, I'm thinking of
Monkey Ball.
I'm talking about Guybrush Threepwood.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about that Monkey Mountain I went to in Japan. It's right outside of Kyoto. It's chock full of monkeys. They're crawling around. You can feed them bananas and whatnot.
Yeah, no, it's great. So, unfortunately, of course, I was never able to go to the Monkey Island, but I did get to go to Culebra, and my God, if you guys want to see, like, the most, like, crystal clear, beautiful water in, like, the entire world,
and
with, like,
I do.
beautiful coral reefs and shit like that, like, that was the first time that I saw a grouper fish while snorkeling, and those motherfuckers are huge.
You've been snorkeling?
I've never been snorkeling.
Hell yeah. Dude,
I've never been fishing.
Really?
What? Oh my God. All right, so, like,
even my gay dad took me fishing.
My gay dad didn't take me fishing. And he's not even gay.
You need a gayer dad, dude. You need a gayer dad.
But yes, snorkeling in Puerto Rico, I'm so happy that I got to do that as a kid, because, I mean, there was fuck all for us to do, because we were pretty poor.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you're pretty poor? You go out and do outdoorsy shit, like, on the weekends. And because every day is pretty much summer. Talk about humidity. Like, I know you guys were talking about New York's humidity and shit like that.
I know. It's got to be way worse there.
Dude, sweating like a fucking priest at a preschool.
I've been to the Carolinas.
It's fucking horrible.
They are way worse than New York.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
The South. Yeah.
Walking through soup.
So actually...
But yeah,
go ahead. Keep going, Zach.
Do yourself a favor, if you ever get a chance to go to Puerto Rico, go over to Culebra. Or, like, I haven't done it, but my cousins have. Go to Luquillo, or not Luquillo, Luquillo Beach is like a big surf place. But go to Vieques, which is where they used to have the old bombing range, blah, blah, blah. That's a long story for a different thing.
Oh, no, we're going to talk about that in the next episode.
Okay, cool, because I was also there during the riots, and I will go into detail later with that.
Yeah.
But, so Vieques has, like, a fucking awesome-ass, like, bioluminescent lagoon that I've always wanted to go to.
Wow.
Really?
And I'm so jealous that my cousins have, or actually my wife's cousins, has gone to and, like, experienced the bioluminescent
Your
lagoon
wife's
over
been
there.
down there?
No, her cousins have.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I misheard.
So there's that.
I wanted to close this episode by reading a few quotes. This first one was from a writer in 1929, before all this shit went down, before the massacre. He said, quote, Puerto Rico has become a land of beggars and millionaires, of flattening statistics and distressing realities. More and more it becomes a factory worked by peons, fought over by lawyers, bossed by absent industrialists, and clerked by politicians. It's now Uncle Sam's second largest sweatshop. End quote.
Jeez.
And I want to
Sounds
do
like America
Christ.
turned up to 11.
Yeah. I want to do one more. So 4 days after the massacre, the Rio Pedro's massacre that we talked about, Blanton Winship, he declared in a press conference. This is a press conference that he himself called. He told several islands' newspapers these words, that if political agitation continued, he was ready to wage, quote, war to the death against all Puerto Ricans, end quote.
Oh, wow.
So fun at parties.
Fuck that guy!
Yeah. So that's where the name of the book came from that we're using for
Wow.
this. And again, a lot of what we are going to say in these two episodes, there will be people that disagree with what I'm saying. But again, all of my research and everything that I found, it does not negate any of the bad stuff. Like when people will try to diminish these things, but the fact is they still happened and they still exist, and a lot of these things still continue on to this day. So you can disagree with me all you want. That's fine.
It's our podcast. We can say what we fucking want.
Yeah, we are not
Make your own
objective here
podcast.
at HistoryBoiz. We are not objective. I don't know how you could read this and not, again, be mad, but also not side with the people being subjugated by our own government. Again, this is American history here. I don't understand how you could possibly side otherwise. That's my own feeling, though. That's my own feeling.
And we agree with you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
If there's not anything else, I just I know everybody's saying it, but since we recorded the last one, John Lewis passed away.
Yes. It was a loss.
American
Big loss.
fucking hero, and the world is better because of him.
Yes.
He was a wonderful fucking person, and honestly, I've been hearing this thing about changing the Edmund Pettus Bridge to the John Lewis Bridge, and
I think
I
that's a
support
good
it
idea.
100%.
I think it's
Definitely.
a good idea.
I think tradition's bullshit. We should be able to do whatever the fuck we want.
Well, we always
And
have
so if
changed
there's-
names of things, and now suddenly we're like,
We had no
So-
problems changing the names of mountains and Native American landmarks to Mount McKinley and like things named after our heroes. So I don't understand what is the big deal by changing it to a more inclusive hero.
well, fuck it, John Lewis is one of my heroes. He was a fucking
Yeah, we've
The
changed
world
names
is better
of
because of
bigger
him.
things
Like-
before, so it doesn't fucking... of course, change the name.
Yeah. That's all I had to say about that. I just
So what do we have to look forward to next week, Jerry?
Well, next
more
week...
darkness.
Well, next week we have armed uprising. We have prison sentences. We have the conclusion of what happens to Salam Barikwa, the barbershop, which is one of the most intense stories I think I've ever heard. This is on like Castle Itter level, like bizarre, crazy battle that is just absolutely insane. So we have that. We have, again, Puerto Rican test subjects by the American government that only came to light fairly recently as far as history goes. We have inhumane treatment of prisoners. We have all sorts of stuff coming for you. Again, not a lot good happens from this story, but the reason why we're telling you it is because it's not taught in schools because it makes America look bad.
This
But
shit
you should
happened.
know it. You should know it. Everyone should know it.
And don't worry, guys. I will also have more Puerto Rican stories. Like, for example, the first time I went boogie boarding.
There you go.
And being also a good story about being a Mexican in Puerto Rico watching the Tito Trinidad versus Fernando Vargas fight on pay-per-view.
We also have Pancho Villa coming back.
Oh,
We got Pancho Villa coming back in this
him.
one.
I miss him so much.
Yeah, we got him coming back in this one.
A Hollywood
the next
celebrity Pancho Villa coming back again.
Technically, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I know I'm not. It's the thing I like most about him. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, listening to us. I'm Tyler Armentrout. I am a introspective master of the third eye, and also Tyler Armentrout, history boy.
I'm Chris Whedon. Not introspective at all. I don't really worry about what's going on in the old brain, but
Surface level.
Yeah, very surface level. I don't really bring much to the table outside of making funny jokes. But I am a history boy.
And I am Zach, quote, nearly drowning mech, also history boy. It's okay, I'm actually a strong swimmer, but I'm just drowning in my depression and alcohol. at this point in
Everyone
time.
is. You're not special.
Yeah. Also, can I just say AKA D'Artagnan?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Well, Zach, you have the support of everyone around you, so don't be so depressed. We all support everything you do. Everything we all do. And the same goes for all of our listeners. We support all of you. We love all of you. Thank you for listening so much. My name is Jerry Nash. I am a history boy. Again, thank you for listening. Join us for part 2. Part 2 is going... I'm sorry to tell you, it's gonna get worse, folks. It's gonna get worse.
Fuck. I'm mad as hell from this one.
I'm sorry. But yeah, follow us on all the social medias. We're talking Instagram. We're talking Twitter at HistoryBoiz Podcast. We're also, if you want to hit us up, our email address is historyboizpodcast@gmail.com. Especially if you have any suggestions for future stories, we always love seeing those. We read every single one of them, and we do put them in the pipeline. Believe it or not, it takes us a while to get to them, but we do put them in the pipeline. We do start researching them, and we always love doing listener stories. So thank you very much.
Yep, and remember, guys, like, we do have a Patreon account, but we don't have anything up.
Yeah.
If you want to just, like, throw us a fucking buck or two, whatever, so that Jerry can quit his job and we can do this full time.
Give us
That'd
some
be
fucking money for free.
And we are kicking around ideas for cool shit to give to you for that. So stay tuned for that. The conversations are being had, and we got some really, really good ideas. Good stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah, we're not
Patreon.com/HistoryBoizPodcast.
Yeah, and we're not going to pressure you to give us any money. That's only on your own accord until we actually have content to give you.
Yeah,
you know.
We have content.
I'm just gonna keep bringing it up at the end of every episode.
No, that's a good idea. It's good, honestly. But I just want people to know, like,
if we have content on there and you're still not paying, I'm coming to your house.
You can do it out of the goodness of your own heart for now.
You don't have to.
We're gonna have more for you in the future. I promise you.
All right, love you. Bye.
We had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't, whatever.